Mesdames, Messieurs, soyez le bienvenu. Nous avons l'immense plaisir de vous recevoir dans cet nouvel entretien exceptionnel aujourd'hui. Je dis bien exceptionnel parce que j'ai l'immense plaisir, le grand honneur de recevoir un intellectuel, un activiste anti-sioniste, un militant juif anti-colonisation. J'ai l'immense plaisir de recevoir mon cher ami, professeur Haïm Zabner. Haïm Zabner, c'est un universitaire britannique, israélien aussi. C'est un intellectuel engagé pour la dignité, l'autodétermination de la population palestinienne. Dear friend, Dr. Haim, hello, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you.
Dear Haim, after 6 months since the outbreak of the war against the Palestinian population in Gaza, and with the shocking figures of babies, children, women, and men killed by Israel, and with the criminal tendency of Israel to starve the population to prevent human aid and destroy hospital, is it legitimate for you to talk about crime against humanity and exactly genocide committed by Israel?
Well, there is no war crime that Israel did not commit in Gaza, as far as I have checked. This is the worst genocide in our lifetime. And what Israel has done and continues to do is totally ignore the international community. And it can do this because it is totally supported by the West. From the US all the way down to Canada and Australia, UK, the EU, they are all supporting Israel in many ways. They are supporting Israel with money. They are supporting Israel with propaganda. They are supporting Israel sending soldiers. We know that at least the US, UK, and France are involved by sending soldiers, not just armaments. They are supporting Israel at the UN. They are supporting Israel when it is brought to the International Court of Justice. In other words, Israel is doing the genocide, but it is supported by Western states who are part of the genocide and should also be brought to the ICJ and the ICC. Now, what is even worse is that the population of Israel, the Jewish population at least, is supporting the genocide in great percentages. To begin with, it was 90%. Now it's above 80%. Most Jews in Israel support the genocide. And a related problem is that many organized Jews outside of Israel support the genocide through their own organizations, which are Zionist. So this is really terrifying, because what it means is that Israel, the US, the UK, and the EU, and especially France and Germany in Europe, are not only supporting the genocide, but they're supporting the growth of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Both Islamophobia and anti-Semitism have grown because anti-Semitism is an obvious result of the war in Gaza, the genocide, the anger of many people who are not able to think about it politically, but they think about it morally, and they think the Jews in Israel are doing the genocide, Jews outside support the genocide, and they make the wrong assumption that all Jews support genocide. This is, of course, not true. But unfortunately, many Jews, through their Zionist organizations outside Israel, support this. they are really not Jewish. For my understanding, Judaism and its history and its tradition for 2000 years in Europe and in the Arab world does not allow for genocide. And yet, these people support it. And they support it despite the fact that Jews were the victims of genocide by the Nazis. This does not make any sense. So the worst thing is that Jews in Israel and Jews in Europe are not yet thinking about the genocide as a crime. They're thinking about it as vengeance, as revenge against what happened on the 7th of October. But on the 7th of October, what happened is breaking out of the jail of Gaza after 75 years of Israeli settler colonialism. People in Palestine had enough of Zionism, had enough of the crimes of Zionism and the war crimes of Israel, and they are trying to free themselves, quite rightly, from Zionism, and this is the result. And unless Israel and its allies start thinking, this will end with a worse genocide than we have now. We already have more than probably 50,000 people, because the figures don't cover those who were buried by their families. They don't cover those buried under the houses. And some people like Ralph Nader said that there are more than 100,000 people dead, and both Israel and Hamas are not telling us the real figures. I believe that's very likely. So what are the West and Israel waiting for with 100,000 people dead, with no food, no water, no medicine, no fuel, no housing, no hospitals, no medical treatment of any kind? What is the world waiting for? This is a terrible thing that has never happened before. You are muted.
Thank you, my friend. After 6 months and with the genocide live, the West, especially the United States and the Great Britain, and also the Arab regimes of normalization, Egypt, Jordan, Arab, Emirati, Morocco, without forgetting France, Germany, and other are considered responsible for this genocide.
Of course they are, because they don't do anything to stop it, but they do a lot to have it continued. Germany especially has not allowed demonstrations for Palestine, for peace and for the end of the genocide, because of Zionist pressure. Now, Germany has been responsible for 2 world wars, for 100 million people dead in Europe. For Germany to actually not allow people to vent their anger against genocide Israel is itself a crime, is itself supporting genocide. France has 22% Muslims in it. These people come from the ex-colonial past of France. These people have suffered colonial violence by France, by Britain, by Israel, by many other countries. And they know what is happening in Gaza, and they want to go into the streets and demonstrate. And the French police, the German police, the Netherlands police, etc., are treating them as extremists. They're treating them as terrorists. And the real terrorists, that is the Israelis, they are helping. They are sending arms. They are sending their citizens, Jewish citizens from France, from Britain, from the United States, from Canada, from Australia are fighting in Gaza. This is a war crime on top of a war crime. These people should actually be sitting in jail. Now, about the Arab regimes, I totally agree with you. This is a terrible thing that those regimes are planning, some of them already have done, to normalize relations with a genocide state. How can they have relations with the genocide state when it kills their brothers and sisters? It kills babies and children, more than, even on the figures of Hamas, more than 15,000 children have died. Now, on the 7th of October, no babies were killed. So how many thousands of babies were already killed by Israel in its totally mad genocidal attack? The fact that the Arab states are not actually boycotting Israel, boycotting any relations with Israel until it stops this and agrees for the rights of the Palestinians to be implemented, for them to have full human rights in their own country, that is a terrible thing that has happened, and we should attack this and criticize it openly all the time.
According to you, that Gaza is the end of the legitimacy of the Zionist project?
I am sure, and I'm not the only one that considers this genocide the end of Zionism. Zionism started with a terrible crime of ethnically cleansing 750,000 Palestinians from their land and never allowed them back. In 1967, it further expelled 250,000 Palestinians from their own country. These million Palestinians that Israel has expelled are now more than 6 million Palestinians living in refugee camps in the Arab world and in the rest of the world, and also in parts of Palestine. So most of Palestinians have no right to see their country, to live in it. They have no right, even if they live in their country, they don't have citizens' right at all. And they have not been allowed to return, despite the fact that the UN demanded in 1949 their right for return. So I think that Zionism has created the Palestinian problem. It has made most of the Palestinians lacking any rights, and no country that continues to do that and then genocides the poorest people in Palestine, in Gaza, for no fault of their own, but for the faults of Zionism, that is not the behavior of a sustainable society. Israel is not a sustainable society. It's very divided from inside. It has now made the whole world realize that it is a criminal society, and it started the decline towards the end of Zionism. Now, I hope that the Palestinian plan for a one-state, democratic state in the whole of Palestine with full rights for the refugees can succeed and be accepted by the UN and by other nations, because anything else is continuing the genocide, is continuing the apartheid, is continuing the ethnic cleansing. And after 75 years, the world has a responsibility. The UN created Israel. The UN created it. Britain has made it possible. by supporting it for 30 years since 1917. And the rest of the West and also the Soviet Union at the time supported the creation of Israel. Now they are responsible for the Nakba, they are responsible for 1967, they are responsible for what we are seeing today. We now have to call for the UN to enforce, to send a military separation force that will defend the Palestinians until such time that the arrangements for peace can be made. We can't leave 2.2 million people in Gaza without housing, without food, without water, without medicine, without hospitals. We cannot do that. Those people should be accepted by Israel to return to their homes. They came from Jaffa, they came from Haifa, they came from Jerusalem, and they ended up in Gaza. And now the Jewish state are killing them in Gaza. Enough is enough. They should be allowed. Gaza will take tens of years, decades to rebuild. Israel should rebuild it, should pay for it, because it is responsible for the destruction. And in the meantime, until Gaza is replaced with modern housing, with modern streets, with modern infrastructure, these Palestinians should be allowed back into those parts of Palestine that they have left in 1948.
I would like to end with you with a message for the Palestinians, specialty in Gaza.
I think the Palestinians in Gaza know that the world is with them, that even the populations of the West are with them. They know that. In this weekend, there was 250,000 people in the streets of London and many more in other cities. There were demonstrations all over the world with millions of people in the streets and billions of people supporting Gaza. But until now, this has not helped. This has not saved one Palestinian child. So instead of just having a message for Gaza, which we all support, we have to have a message from Gaza to the world. If you don't support us now, there will be nothing left to support. People will die from disease, will die from starvation, will die from lack of medication, will die from neglect. And the world is neglecting Gaza, and this is unacceptable.
Dear friend, Dr. Haim, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. See you in presently. Thank you. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. And I hope we'll see the end of Zionism soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Goodbye.